Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be revising my notes on IGCSE Biology Chapter 1 Characteristics and Classification of Living Organisms. So these are the syllabus requirements for Chapter 1 for all those who are giving their exams between 2023 to 2025. All living things show 7 basic characteristics: movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. Movement is an action made by an organism or parts of an organism that results in a change of place or position. Respiration is the chemical reactions that happen in cells to break down nutrient molecules and release the energy needed for metabolism. Sensitivity is the ability to sense or detect stimuli in internal or external environment and make appropriate responses. Growth is the permanent increase in size and dry mass of an organism. It is caused by an increase in cell number, cell size, or both. Reproduction is the processes that produce more of the same type of organism. Excretion is the removal of metabolic waste products and of substances that are excess in requirements for the organism. Nutrition is the taking in of materials for energy, growth, and development. Classification is organizing living organisms into groups. So, species is a group of organisms that can reproduce to produce fertile offspring. Binomial system is an internationally agreed system to scientifically name organisms using their genus and species. So it is a two-term naming system made up of the genus. The genus should always begin with a capital letter, and the species is written completely in lowercase and if possible in italics. For example, Homo sapiens. Humans are Homo sapiens, so Homo is the genus and sapiens is the species. So this is Linnaeus' system of classification. It begins with the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So if we take the example of Homo sapiens, the kingdom is Animalia, phylum is Chordata, which means they have a backbone, class is Mammalia, order Primates, family Hominidae, genus Homo, and species is Sapiens. So together it is Homo sapiens. The cells of all living organisms have a few common structures like cytoplasm, cell membrane, DNA, which is the genetic material, ribosomes, which is required for protein synthesis, and enzymes. So there are 5 kingdoms of classification: animals, plants, fungi, protocista, and prokaryotes, out of which the first 4, animals, plants, fungi, and protocista, are eukaryotic organisms. This means that their genetic material is in a structure called nucleus. The animal kingdom. Animals are multicellular organisms. Their cells have nucleus but no cell walls or chloroplasts, so they can't photosynthesize. So they have to eat other organisms to get food. They have some kind of nervous coordination system which allows them to respond rapidly to changes in their environment. They can usually move around from one place to another. They store carbohydrates in the form of glycogen. Most animals reproduce sexually. The plant kingdom. Plants are multicellular. They have chloroplasts containing chlorophyll, which means they can photosynthesize and produce their own food. They have cell walls, which are made of cellulose. Plants store carbohydrates as sucrose or starch, and they can reproduce sexually or asexually. What most plants have in common is the green pigment chlorophyll, which absorbs energy from sunlight, and this plant can use energy to make sugars by the process of photosynthesis. Fungi kingdom. Some fungi are single-celled, while others have structure called mycelium, which is made up of hyphae. Hyphae is the thread-like structures which contain lots of nuclei. Fungi cannot photosynthesize, so they feed off other organisms. Their cells have cell walls made of chitin. They can store carbohydrates as glycogen and they reproduce using spores. Next is the protocista kingdom. Some protocysts can be unicellular while others are multicellular. Some can be microscopic, which means really tiny, while some can be quite big, for example seaweed. Some protocysts have chloroplasts and are similar to plant cells, whereas others are like animal cells or fungal cells. The prokaryotic kingdom. Prokaryotes are single-celled and microscopic. Prokaryotes are different from eukaryotic organisms as they do not have nucleus, but they do have cell wall. Bacteria comes under the prokaryotic kingdom. Prokaryotes have circular chromosomes of DNA, plasmids, cell wall, cytoplasm, cell membrane. Some of them can photosynthesize. Most bacteria feeds off other organisms, while some are pathogens which can cause disease. Viruses are not in one of the kingdoms as they are not considered as living things because they don't carry out the 7 characteristics of living organisms. Their cellular structure consists of a protein coat and genetic material which can be DNA or RNA. They can only reproduce inside other living cells. They are parasites. They are all pathogens. The animal kingdom is divided into 2 groups, vertebrates and invertebrates. Vertebrates are animals with backbone and an internal skeleton, whereas invertebrates do not have backbone, though some have an external skeleton. Vertebrates are also divided into 5 main groups: fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals, which we can remember with the mnemonic Mr. Fab. Beginning with fish. Fish live in water and have fins to swim with. They have skeletons made of bone or cartilage. Most fish have scales. They have gills for breathing, and their gills are covered with a flap of skin called operculum. They are cold-blooded and most of them lay eggs which are fertilized externally, but some have live births. Examples are shark and goldfish. Amphibians have moist, smooth and permeable skin through which they can breathe. They live on land and in water. Adults usually have lungs, while young amphibians have gills. Amphibians are cold-blooded creatures and most of them lay their eggs in water to be fertilized externally. Example is frog, which is an adult, it has lungs, whereas toad is young amphibian, so it has gills. Reptiles. Reptiles mostly live on land. They have dry, scaly skin which stops them from losing too much of water from their body. They have lungs for breathing. They are cold-blooded and most of them lay soft-shelled eggs, but some of them give live births. Birds have feathers and wings which allows them to fly and scaly feet. They have beaks for feeding, lungs for breathing. They are warm-blooded and they lay eggs to produce offspring. Mammals have hair or fur on their bodies. They may also have sweat glands. They have lungs for breathing and external ears or external pinnae. They are warm-blooded creatures. Most give birth to their young, though a few species lay eggs. Females produce milk from mammary glands to feed their young. Mammals also have heart with 4 chambers. They have a diaphragm and they have different types of teeth. Arthropods are part of the invertebrate group. They have exoskeletons and segmented bodies, which means that their bodies are made of repeating parts. There are 4 groups of arthropods: insects, crustaceans, arachnids and myriapods, which we can remember with the mnemonic MICA. Starting with insects. Insects have 3 pairs of legs. Their body is divided into 3 parts: a head, a thorax and an abdomen. They have 1 pair of antennae. They usually have wings, and examples include beetles, ants, bees, butterflies, etc. Crustaceans have more than 4 pairs of jointed legs. They usually live in water. Some of them have limbs that branch into 2 at the ends. They have 2 pairs of antennae but no wings. Crabs, lobsters, shrimps, and woodlice are examples of crustaceans. Arachnids have 4 pairs of legs and a body that is divided into 2 parts, a combined head or thorax and an abdomen. They do not have antennae or wings. They breathe through gills called book lungs, and they also have spinnerets, the part through which they spin their spider webs. For example, there is spiders, scorpions, etc. Next is the myriapods. They have lots of legs and they have 1 pair of antennae. Examples include centipedes and millipedes. The plant kingdom is divided into 2 main groups, the flowering plants and the non-flowering plants. Flowering plants reproduce using flowers and seeds, whereas non-flowering plants such as ferns reproduce with spores, though some use seeds. Flowering plants can further be divided into 2 groups, monocotyledons and dicotyledons. Monocotyledons have only 1 cotyledon. So this means that they have 1 embryonic leaf. Their petals usually come in multiples of 3. The veins of their leaves run parallel to each other. Dicotyledons, on the other hand, have 2 cotyledons, which means they have 2 embryonic leaves. They have petals in the multiples of 4 or 5, and the veins in their leaves form a branching network. Non-flowering plants example is ferns. So ferns features include leaves called fronds. They don't produce flowers, but they reproduce by spores, and ferns have roots, stems and leaves. Hit the like button, share this video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.